Friends, it's happening. Gold has been on an unstoppable run. It has gone up more than 81% in the last 5 years and almost 20% in the last 12 months. Central banks are ditching the dollar and U.S. treasuries and buying more gold. The good news, it's predicted to go up more. Some experts even say it will go up to $5,000. Noble Gold Investments' phone has been ringing nonstop. Everyone wants to protect their retirement with gold, and you can do the same. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced investor, Noble Gold Investments will make sure you get all the help you need, and from day one, you work with the same dedicated all-American expert. And this month, Noble Gold Investments will give you a free quarter-ounce gold standard coin if you open a qualified account. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com. That's noblegoldinvestments.com.
The train has left the station and no one can stop it. And it looks like that, and I believe that we are getting close to the last days of possible rethinking and reconsidering of everything that is happening in Ukraine. Big confrontation, how far we are. I believe that we are not far away from it. Not more than 3-4 months. And there is a danger to happen even before that.
Hey, Inspire Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, it's John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in. It is Monday, June 17th, 2024. And the motto of the Inspired Livestream has been, we're healthy, we're wealthy, we're whole, we're free. It's good to see you all. Thank you for tuning in on Rumble, on YouTube, in the live chat. I see our dear friends here. Shaman is here. Tony is here. Good to see you. Stuart, Kay, Stacy, Sharon, Andrew, Girl Sees Dragon, CR user, Rob. Good to see you, brother. Michael, Ronald is here. Andy, Stacy, Sadie, Carrie. Oh my goodness. Victoria. So good to see you all. Thank you. Let's dive right into it, my friends. First off, I want to ask you to take a few deep breaths. Really center, be balanced. This is the key point. Any and all information must be approached from a balanced standpoint. We need to stay in that space where we can access our creativity. However, we also need to assess the situation at hand correctly. And what we're seeing, as you know, we're sifting through all the noise and we're trying to find the signals. There was an interview and we played just a little bit. We're going to play more of it in a few moments here, of Aleksandar Vučić, who is the current president of Serbia. He had an interview with a German news outlet about 8-9 days ago. And I believe this interview was one of the big markers that we need to pay attention to. These things, these media appearances by leaders, they happen all the time, but some are very significant, more significant than others. The reason why I feel it's very significant is especially because it is Serbia's president who's doing the talking here. Serbia has been a power for centuries and centuries, extreme power, very instrumental in both world wars and the Balkan Wars, of course, a warring power and a very strong people. So we have to look at the symbolics of any situation too, not just what is being said, but who says it and when it's being said. Obviously, he was talking about the escalation of the Ukraine war into Central Europe. However, we have multiple fronts and streams of information we need to look at that concern both the United States, or North America, if you will, and Central Europe. Those are the key points that we're going to look at today. And there are certain precursors before a war happens. War does never just happen out of the blue, right? So the ramp up of the Ukraine war, it took years really to by the time that it started, those who were observing the situation already knew it was going to start. Those who were reading the signs properly, that's why nobody was really unprepared for it. And we have the same situation here. However, I think we can possibly prevent the worst and turn the tide, if you will, but we have to understand what's going on and how to do it So before we go any further, I want to play the 6 or 7 minutes. We edited the highlights of the interview. It was in 1 hour interview, again, of the German news outlet Die Weltwoche with President Vucic of Serbia. And I really want you to study what he says, how he says it, also the body language. But notice there is no theatrics, no, this is sincere. And this is important. It's an important marker. So let's look at this together for the next 6 or 7 minutes here.
Train has left the station and no one can stop it. And it looks like that. And I believe that we are getting close to the last days of possible rethinking and reconsidering of everything that is happening in Ukraine. If those big powers don't do anything in a short period of time, yes, I'm pretty much certain that we'll face a real disaster. If you bet on the fact that someone is bluffing, it means that you have no better cards. But you just believe that the other side has weaker cards. And you're not sure about it because you don't know and you didn't see his or their cards. This won't help anyone. This will just deteriorate the situation. Everybody is speaking only about war. Nobody wants to reach the peace. Nobody speaks about peace. Peace is almost a forbidden word. And please notice this. Because they say we need to win in order to secure future peace, but nobody's speaking about a peace, and then okay, you negotiate it. But you have the other side. You have to have the other side on the table as well. It's it's very strange to me that no one is actually attempting to stop the war. There is another theory, which I can understand, which I don't say that I do approve, but I understand that West thinks that they can win easily against Putin. They want to exhaust him in Ukraine, and then they will enter the space, and then Russia in today's territory and shaped like it is today won't exist anymore, and Putin will be overthrown and everything else. Yeah, maybe that's possible, but
do you think that is possible? Is it possible to use Ukraine to weaken Russia?
Well, it weakened Russia anyway, but is it enough to destroy Russia and to overthrow Putin? I don't believe so. I don't believe so. And I believe that I cannot say they overestimate themselves. I believe they underestimate Russia and Putin.
How do you explain the mood in countries like France, Germany, United States? Most part of the media, the mood is confrontation. We have to do more. We have to bring in more weapons. Everybody is saying that in the media and political mainstream. How do you explain that, this kind of war enthusiasm, to call it, to use this word?
Whenever I was asked by many people here to launch a war against Albanians and NATO in Kosovo because they were expelling our people, killing our people and everything else, I was just saying, okay, I do understand your emotions, I do understand your position, but would you really like if the fact that your mother will get a coffin with her son, husband, father, whomever? And then it's a slightly different approach. In today's Europe, they all act like big heroes, but they did not say to their people that they will pay a very big price. That's what I think. They should all try to reaching any kind of truce, any kind of ceasefire, and then to negotiate for 10, 20, 30, 50 years. Doesn't matter. It's better than a day of bitter fight which we face today. Why I'm speaking that we are getting close to the precipice to the abyss. Analyze the situation of NATO and the United States. They cannot afford themselves losing war in Ukraine, which means Russia cannot win. Because, first of all, their political legacy will not exist, or it will be so poor that they cannot allow themselves. Number two, position of Europe and the West, collective West, in geopolitical terms, will deteriorate so much that no one would be able to revive it and to renew it. And number three, it will open Pandora's box for more movements, at least, and hostilities against collective West in the future. But take the other side. That's a nice story for one side. But take the other side. If Putin loses the war, he's going to lose personally everything. If he loses the war, he won't have a legacy of someone that created a sort of common denominator for Ivan, Peter the Great, and Catherine the Great. And number three, Russia will not exist and won't be shaped like it is today. I mean, when you have these two sides so much far from each other, with their wishes, with their expectations, then you see that everything is at stake. Everything. No one can afford to himself or to itself, to themselves, to lose. When you have this situation, that's why I was saying to you, that's why I was saying publicly and not hiding it, that we are getting closer to a real disaster. Who is ready to lose 1 million, 2 million, 5 million, 10 and 15 million people? Ask yourself. I'm not ready to lose a single man, and we won't participate in that. But it's a question for some other people.
How close are we now to a third world war, a confrontation?
I cannot say a third world war, but that big confrontation, how far we are, I believe that we are not far away from it. Not more than 3-4 months. And there is a danger to happen even before that.
Where do you stand in this whole insanity? Where does Serbia stand in this big conflict?
We'll keep peace, stability and tranquility within the region and in our country. We'll do our best, at least.
Okay, well, that was President Vučić of Serbia. We're not going to go into any sensationalism here. We're going to look at some very important facts. We're going to look at historic facts, and we're going to look at the current situation to assess all the things that he said and more. So first off, I want to say that this interview stood out to me among all the bullshit interviews that I see by other presidents and prime ministers, which are usually neglectable. This one is not neglectable. I think this might go down. I hope he will not go down in history as this being one of the most prophetic interviews. But you have to understand Serbia, the role of Serbia. You have to understand these are people who have seen war very, very recently, over and over again. They know what that means. It's a very different story than if you look at France today, if you look at other Central European countries who haven't had a war since the Second World War. Very different situation. I looked at his body language. I couldn't find a single point in an interview where he was lying. He wasn't telling everything that he knows he can, naturally, but he was saying enough, much more than enough. And I think some very important things. I think he's right in his assessment that if we, and I'm talking about you and us and the people that we can reach, if we don't do everything that we can do, this will escalate in the next few months because it's ripe, right? Everything is ripe and everything is going in that direction. This, I want to also make clear that I absolutely understand there is a hand on top of all of this that is steering to the best of its abilities these countries, these blocks of power, these nations But these leaders and the military leaders and whatnot, most of them are simply not aware of this or are in lockstep with that hand. But the best way to manipulate a situation is first, you got to control both sides of a conflict. That is how you always win. And then you have to have people in powerful positions whose ego is big enough so that they will do the self-preservation thing. They will do the thing that keeps them in power. And they will look at all these conflicts as being inherently real. So on that level, we have to look at it from that level, that the leaders in charge, the military leaders, they look at it as this is a real conflict. This is our objective. They don't look at it as this is all just a game. It's a game to the hidden hand above, but not to those people. They're in it for the real thing. Why do I say that I think that we actually are looking at a massive conflict? There are, let's look at Europe first, and then we can look at the United States. The problem is that we're looking at multiple fronts. You have the Ukraine thing, which caused, of course, horrific things in the Ukraine for the Ukrainian people, which is now what, a 2.5-year war in action. You had the devastating effects, economical effects on Europe as they, rejected anything from Russia at that point. They had the cheapest and best gas deal in the world. That's how the Central European, especially the German, the Austrian economy, that's how they were built after World War II, because of constant cheap Russian gas, great agreements in place. All of that was going down the drain on the heels of the greatest economic upheaval because of the 2020 bullshit that was going on because of this whole fake thing. So you have this perfect storm, economically speaking, in Europe. Europe is economically shot. It's on life support. The businesses are going out of business left and right, big, middle, small. People are getting used to being on the tit of the government so much it's not even funny. Nobody really wants to work anymore, and it's all in an artificial bubble. So that's the economic side of things. Then you have, of course, the last 15, 20 years, almost uncontrolled mass migration into Europe by mostly from Muslim countries or Muslim centric countries. And you have this cultural clash in Europe as well, which is in most European countries, it's gotten to the point where in addition to this economic turmoil, people are simply fed up, and the farmers talked about this earlier this year. People are simply fed up with the fact that they built the economies of their nations, they worked, they paid their taxes, they did everything that they were supposed to do. They started businesses, and now you have every week a new regulation or law that's being put into place that basically enables people to enter the country and start receiving huge benefits from the get-go without having to work. Free apartments, free food, free phones, free internet, free everything. Now, of course, that's going to upset the native populations. Of course, it's no surprise that in truth, almost all European nations are moving hard to the right. That's no surprise whatsoever. In France, you've seen it with Le Pen, who's, her dad was on the far right for many decades. She's now, it's a whole family affair. But for the first time in a long time, the far right is really gaining so much momentum. And the powers that want to be will use that to their advantage if they can too. To them, it doesn't really matter if it's far left, far right, as long as they get their thing done. So you have all these clashing energies in Central Europe. In and of itself, that's not even counting military conflict. That's just what's happening within the countries. So make a marker here. A lot of countries in Central Europe have a huge potential if you ignite it, if you set the right triggers for civil war. Okay, so that's the one thing. Then you have the military alliance, NATO, the Western alliance in Ukraine, fighting the proxy war against Russia, if you will. This huge conflict has a potential to move further west into Central Europe. And we don't know what the trigger will be, but like Vucic said, this can happen sooner. He thinks 3-4 months, but maybe sooner. And once another nation, an official, maybe NATO member, is involved on their home soil, you have a perfect storm. Ukraine is not officially a member of NATO yet. They treat it like it's a NATO member. It shouldn't be able to join NATO under the current NATO rules because it is at war, and a country at war cannot join. It shouldn't be able to join according to the Minsk agreements. The NATO border should always have been Eastern Germany. That was what it was always. But okay, so we're at this. This is the point. That's what's happening in Europe. Take the bigger economic picture of the dollar basically being dead and on life support. It's like, no more brain activity, no more organ activity. It's just that last machine that's pumping oxygen into the body. There's nothing. Saudi Arabia dropped the dollar, the petrodollar, so it's not trading their oil in dollar any longer. The dollar has been dropped from the Moscow exchange. Over the last years, BRICS has gained so much ground, the BRICS nations. So the dollar is all but dead, which doesn't just mean it's a huge problem for America. It's a huge problem for all the dollar-centric nations that have traded and based their economies on the course of the dollar, which is many in the world. So we have that situation going on. Then we switch over to America, same thing as in Central Europe, just on steroids, because this mass migration has really transpired over the last few years, not over the span of 15, 20 years. Yes, there was a lot of that before, but this is of a whole new nature. These are different people that have been coming in. So there's the setting here is also you could potentially trigger a civil war very, very quickly in the United States. Wouldn't be a problem. They have more than enough foreign powers and forces in place that will start fighting immediately. That's been accomplished. So there's no doubt about that. So here is what and I'll get to the solution of this. There always is, but we have to assess the problem correctly. Nothing prevents people from moving forward in life, whether individually or collectively, prevents them more than not being able to assess a problem correctly. If you don't get that, you can't get the solution right. So we have in America the same potential for civil war. Now you pair that with two of the most powerful nations on earth are currently at war. That's Russia and Israel, right? Those are currently at war. Of course, the United States is always at war, never stops, always just sometimes disguised, sometimes openly. But so you have this situation, Middle East, one big boiling pot. Ukraine, Russia, another big boiling pot. The Central European countries and their internal problems, big boiling pot. The United States and its internal problems, huge boiling pot. What is this all about? To absolutely destroy of whatever is left of Western Europe and North America of the culture, good or bad. I'm not judging it at this point, but this is the aim, to bring down the United States, bring down Western Europe, completely annihilate values, culture, economy, everything. That's the goal. So now we have all these boiling pots. The problem is, if you trigger one, we should be able to do it. But if you trigger 2 or 3 at the same time, you trigger 2 or 3 civil wars in Central Europe. At the same time, you escalate the war in Ukraine and you start problems internally in America. Now you have so much diverted attention that it is hard to focus on all these places at the same time. That's what they're preparing. And of course, then there are bigger things that they could do, but that would be enough to send us in a downward spiral. That would be crazy. So let's look a little bit at historic precursors for war, because it is important. We are in a unique period in many ways, but in other ways, history isn't all that different. And we need to look at those precursors and signs for war in the past. They're very clear. Let's see if they sound familiar to you. Increased militarization. Have we seen an increase in military spending? It was planned for the 2024 defense budget to not be increased. Then, looking forward, the plan was to do 2%, 3%, the regular stuff. Now it's gone up 10% plus, which is unheard of. And that's just looking at the official numbers. That's not all the black budget money that goes into the military from other spaces. Okay, you have economic instability. We just talked about that. We have economic instability all over the place. But yeah, America, Canada, United States, Europe, all over the place, economic instability. You have propaganda and radicalization. Of course, that's been going on over the last years. There's no doubt about it. And you don't have to look at whether it's far left, far right, far religious, doesn't matter. The idea is that everything that was there is becoming more intense and radicalized. In emergency situations or when things go in a different direction, that's wanted. That's what they want. They want people to be more radical. They want them to be more passionate about their cause. Let's look at change in international relations. I already hinted on that. There's a seismic shift in alliances in the world that's been going on over the last year. Seismic in nature, unbelievable. Some of the big nations have bonded together. As I said, the BRICS nations, under the leadership of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But now, of course, Saudi Arabia is looking in that direction. So you have these huge, massive countries, power players, economic players, bonding together to create their own economic zone, to create their own currency zone, technological zone, trading zone, everything. And that's what they've been doing. So the seismic shift has been ongoing. Then you have technological advancement. I don't have to tell you, we talk about this more than enough, or maybe not enough. I don't know, but we talk about it a lot. These technological leaps that we're seeing are causing huge tensions between the power blocks as they want to outdo each other, or they say, if we allow this power player to go further with their technological advancements, we'll be shot. So let's go to war now. Okay, that's another thing. Then we have political instability. I mean, look at it's a little bit different in Europe than it is in the United States. So it's easier for you to see the political instabilities. In the United States, we always have the 2-year election cycle. So we have midterms and then we have 4-year presidential elections. So those cycles really don't ever change. There are never extraordinary elections in the United States. However, in Europe, I don't know, but most countries can't seem to hold together a government for an entire legislative period. So they have constant new elections, or they replace unelected. They just replace the leader because the leader was wrapped up in a scandal. They phase someone out, bring someone else in. That's been going on hardcore for the last years in Europe. So huge political instability, huge shifts, huge manipulations. It's all happening. And then, of course, we have social and cultural changes, which I don't have to tell you. The woke, the EDI, all of that is just it's crazy. Or is it IED or IDE? I forget. Diversity, equity, inclusion. DEI. It is DEI. Absolutely crazy what's been going on. So they're basically shoving down these cultural changes and belief system changes down people's throats in fast forward speed, in lightning speed. Things that usually happen over 50, 60 years, they're wanting to make them happen in months, in a few short years. So all of these are historic signs for war. And we can see these things play out before every major war. So that is not rocket science. So what is it that we can do? Here's what I'm noticing when I'm researching this. The Germans don't want war. The Russian population doesn't want war. The Italian population doesn't want war. The American population doesn't want war. And on and on and on. You go into these nations, they don't just not want war. They also don't want to support other wars any longer. They don't want to send money to Israel. They don't want to send money to Gaza beyond humanitarian relief. They don't want to send more weapons into Ukraine. They don't want that. We don't want that. So this is a positive sign. None of us want war. There were other periods. There was, right after 9/11, you had a war-hungry nation that was ready to go to war to fight someone for the horrific attacks. Little did they know at that time that it was much closer to home than they thought. But we are at a time where it's not that people are apathetic. It's not that they don't feel for the pain of others in the world. It's just that they are tired of that being the answer to anything and everything. And so the people don't want to go to war. So how can we now use this? The powers that want to be know this. They know the support for war is almost nothing. I know within the military, within the reserve, the only reason for a lot of the reserve forces, so the soldiers that are on standby, they would at this point only go to war to defend their nation on home soil. They're not interested in being involved in anything else. I know that for a fact firsthand for a lot of them. However, we have two things that we need to accomplish. Number one, even though it's so obvious, a lot of people can't see that NATO, the Western powers, and everybody else is ramping up. They're starting to bring back mandatory military service in almost all nations in Europe that didn't have it. They're bringing it back here in the United States. Automatic registration. They want to also force women to go in. All of these things are happening. So we have to make the populations of our nations aware that huge war preparations are in place. Because here is what the powers that want to be will potentially do. They will create some false flag event that will ignite the passions of the population. That's what they always do. Now, the problem is we used to be able to count on the youth to be on the side of peace. The youth has been radicalized over the last years, and they are the first ones to march for more aggression. It's usually the youth is usually on the left, most of the youth. You know, that's traditionally like it is. And they kind of say, in the mainstream political arena, they say, if you don't stand on the left in your teens and in your 20s, you don't have a heart. If you don't stand on the right in your 30s and 40s, you don't have a brain. That's what the mainstream political sphere is saying. But the youth has been traditionally always more leaning to the left side of politics. So you could get them excited about all the causes, and it was usually really, really peaceful, right? End the war. No more war. Now, send weapons to Ukraine. Kill Israel or kill Gaza or whatever they're screaming, but it's become very aggressive. And that's because the youth has been empowered in all of their regular youth developmental problems. You know, growing up is hard. Being a teenager is hard. Finding your place in the world, who you are, what you are. And we used to guide young people and assure them that a lot of these things are normal and they'll grow out of them, and it's phases. Now we give them pronouns and gender identifications and organizations and money and visibility and social media power, so they feel very empowered on causes that are fleeting. So what I am seeing is you have a youth that can be ignited to actually be pro-war rather than pro-peace. This is a new turning point. So our intention and our shared responsibility is that we create a momentum of awareness that it is not the conflict at hand that warrants an expansion, but it is the desire of the psychopaths behind closed doors that wants this expansion. And I will say this once again, they don't care about the things that you care about. They don't care about life. They don't care about your dreams, your desires, your hopes. They want to reshape the face of this place. It is to set up their zones, their Hunger Games zones. This is all Hollywood just, you know, puts their storyline, their spin on these things, but these things are all true. They want to eradicate nations. They want to eradicate national identity, sovereignty. It's about, if necessary, bringing this whole thing down and then creating this new world order that they always wanted to do. This, and we have to understand, if war is what gets them there, then they will use war. There's no inherent resistance in these folks to any solution. What's on the table? What will get us there? That's it. That is it. Why do you think the bunker building contractors and companies have been so extremely busy over the last years? Why do you think they torched Lahaina? Why do you think they did that? They torched all of that. They took over the land. What do you think? They want their little islands. They want their little places. They want their little spaces where they can go to while shit's going down. So Hawaii is a wonderful place, far enough away from anything, and they'll shield it. They're building bunkers left and right. We are in this. So the question is, when the false flag events happen, whatever they may be, will we be able to create enough space between the false flag and the reaction to inform the people of how this really works? The more we can do now, the easier it will be when it comes, and the faster we can get people to say, no, 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 no. They're just trying to provoke you into going into the fight. I will say this, like I've said over and over again. Most of you by now have seen Event 201. If you haven't, go on YouTube or any other platform and search for Event 201. Thank you, Lee. Really appreciate it. Event 201 was what happened from 2020 onwards, exactly down to a T, was a huge exercise in New York in 2019, October. It involved all the same players that would be the main players of the 2020-2021 event. Okay, they practiced this. This is typical. It just, you have a huge exercise that seamlessly goes into the real event. Has happened so many times. So if people had seen Event 201 and all the video footage that was available in October of 2019, and if we had broadcasted the shit out of that everywhere, by the time that 2020 had rolled around and all the madness, too many people would have already been aware of, hey, they just had this huge exercise. This is exactly like what they exercised. Something's fishy here. That's all we would have needed. Thank you, Lee. Really appreciate it. That's all we would have needed. We have the possibility now. The war games are all playing out. They're doing their huge exercises everywhere. They're transferring their ships and their fleets around. Everything is being brought into position. If we can get word out that it is very likely, because the current state of affairs in Israel is not getting enough support from the people for more war. The current state of affairs in Ukraine is not getting enough support of the people for more war. So they need something else. If we can get the word out to people that something is coming, that they will create something, and that the first reaction of the people will be, oh, we got to go and fight these bastards. We got to go to war now. This is it. This is it. If we can get people prepared for that, then when it comes, they won't stand for it. They won't support it. They will call their sons and daughters in the armed forces and say, you're being played. Don't fall for it. Don't go. Be a conscientious objector, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. Just don't do it. All of our other causes, all of our other fights will be diminished in an instant when we get into kinetic conflict. When we go into kinetic conflict, there's no time for anything else. When in real kinetic conflict, it's kill or be killed every day, all day. We don't want that. But for that, we need to be real adults here. Just to just say, oh, we're praying. Oh, when Trump's coming back, everything will be. None of these things will do it. Some of these things can be helpful. Prayer, of course, meditation. Somebody has asked if we do a mass peace meditation. We never do this on an open forum. However, we will do another one in our locals community. It will be free to attend, of course, but it will be accompanied and monitored in a proper way so that we can have negative interference and bad actors hijacking. There's a lot of power that happens in collective intention, in collective meditation. There's a lot of energy that's available at such points. We have to make sure that it's happening in a safe field. Very, very important. So it can't be hijacked. So we never do this on the open forum. We never participate. I would never encourage anyone to participate in an open forum mass meditation. Not good, especially online. Okay, so this is one of the key elements, and we have so many things to do at the same time. This is an information campaign still. People think we're done. We're nowhere near done. You are very educated. You know a lot, and maybe some of the people that you know a lot, but the majority knows very little. They're emotionally driven. They're under huge stress. They take medication. They drink. They do all kinds of stuff. They're easy to manipulate. They're easy targets. So we have to create a field of information, a field that's also balanced enough where we don't panic, but we just say, here's what's playing out. They have certain goals. These goals are written down in documents. These goals are clearly being played out in all of their organizations, governmental and non-governmental. It's all ripe. They need one or two huge events, or not even that huge events, and they will ignite the passions of the people, because the people are already fed up with so many things. So if you can do it right, you can get a lot of to beat the war drum. And this is we have to understand that our actions have already prevented so many things from happening in the past. People always say, oh, you talk about this event and then it never happened. Well, good. I'm glad it didn't happen. Have you ever thought about the fact that maybe because of your awareness and the awareness of maybe millions of others, this couldn't happen? The danger was too big. So when events that are planned and likely to happen all of a sudden don't happen, Lee, thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate it. When they all of a sudden don't happen, it doesn't always mean that we were wrong. It often means that we were able to prevent it. Listen, knowledge, preparation, and wisdom, they all have a huge effect. Intention does too. But simply pretending this is not happening, that's the worst. Then we'll be just run over. So, as always, go within, connect with your spirit, let your spirit guide you. It shouldn't be me. It shouldn't be your brainy ideas. It should be spirit that's guiding you in your actions. At this point, we won't accomplish this by just singing Kumbaya. We're way past that point. We accomplish it by informing the people correctly, as good as we can. By saying, have you seen this? Are you noticing this? Look at your nation. Don't even look at the geopolitical sphere. Just look at your own nation. Study what is the defense sector doing? Are they ramping up military preparations? What exercises have they been part of? What emergency declarations have been made, maybe behind closed doors? Are the reserves being called in? Are emergency fuel and food preparations being made? All these things matter, but they're not often done loudly. Often they will be done on a weekend when a Chinese spy balloon is flying around or something else that catches people's attention. Then they will do these things. But you can find this out for your own country. Then you know what your own country is doing. The Scandinavian countries are openly preparing. The Germans are openly preparing. The French are openly preparing. It's all clear. So, if the people know they're being played, then they can maybe make a better decision. And that's what this is all about. Okay? Let the people know they're being played. And I have such huge respect for all our brothers and sisters in the armed forces and the military. I will never stand for, we've seen some horrible language towards the soldiers here. And I'll tell you this, if you use that on our channel, you're gone. You'll be banned. I have no problem with free speech and expression. If you want to criticize, sure, go criticize leadership. Go criticize the warmongers, not the good men and women, and most of them are really good people who are willing, and especially in their own conviction and perception, because usually they believe what they do is to support, defend, or whatever their home nation, their families, their country. So that deserves huge respect. People who are willing to leave their families, leave their lives, and put it in the service of others. Now, many of them have seen that their leadership has lied to them and that they have led them into situations they should have never been in for the wrong reasons. Yes, of course. But don't blame that on the soldiers, the men and women. Blame it on the leadership. But we're in a situation now where a lot of our brothers and sisters are realizing this, and they won't be used as cannon fodder any longer. They won't have it. They won't stand for it. And that's the beautiful thing. The awakening is going through all sections of society. But let's show our brothers and sisters some support and let them know we'll have their back. If they're being dishonorably discharged or whatever, let them know we'll have their backs. We'll be there for them. We'll help them. We'll stand with them. We'll march with them, whatever it takes. But let's invite our brothers and sisters in the military in to this conversation. Let's not alienate them or look at them as enemies. I think that's very important. All right, my friends. One thing that I would encourage you to do, there's a link in the description. I would encourage you, if you haven't yet, to give FLFE a free trial. It's a high consciousness field that is being maintained around your property or around you on the go. If you choose the mobile service, you can do it for free, 15 days, no credit card needed, no subscription created. It is a huge helper in these times. And the more intense everything gets, the more I keep saying this is one of the most important services in the world today. It's not AI. There's no frequency sent to your phone. This creates a high or maintains a high consciousness field. Study high consciousness fields. What makes people feel good when they walk into certain churches or when they go to certain pilgrimage sites or climb certain mountains, go to certain springs. There are high consciousness fields all over the place where people go to rejuvenate, to have more energy, to heal, to feel better. We have those on Earth. We all know we've walked into a house and just felt amazing. We've walked into a place and felt amazing. And what is this? The energy is so great here. That's a high consciousness field. And we can create those through meditation and prayer. However, to create the equivalent of what this quantum technology does would take 6, 7, 8 hours of meditation every day, all day. I mean, wonderful. If you can do it, we absolutely love the support from that service. And the solutions and the testimonials that we've seen over the last months were off the hook, from financial, health, family, relationship, healing. I mean, just unbelievable. Unbelievable. The service has been around for many years. They're constantly optimizing it. We've had days and days and days worth of conversations with the founders. We're very close. It's a company with the highest integrity Absolutely wonderful. So I encourage you, look it up. Links in the description. Start your free trial. Also, EMF mitigation is part of this whole thing, and much, much more. So how do you get FLFE? It's very, very simple. You click on a link in the description, and then there's 2 services that they offer, and you can try them again for free. They don't ask for your credit card or for you to create a subscription. You will not be accidentally charged or accidentally become a member. It doesn't happen. It's a no strings attached trial. So there are 2 ways. One is the property service. Again, this is a quantum technology, so you have to think a little different than you would think of other stuff. So they have recently introduced their photo service. Up until then, so when they put your property, your home on the service, they have to make sure that they have the exact location marker, if you will. That's why they ask for your address. But in some countries, the address index wasn't so accurate because they didn't have as thorough a system as others. So now what you can do, you can, and they'll explain it on the website, you can take a photo of, let's say, your fireplace or your on the wall of a painting or whatever, that will serve as a unique identifier for the service. Believe it or not, there have been other services that have worked with photographs in the past where you could put a photograph into this machine and it would start literally a healing program. So I'm just saying, none of this is new for us. It might be new for some of our viewers, but it hasn't been new in many years for us. So then you send them that photo and they will activate the service and they will maintain your property at 550, which is unconditional love on the Hawkins created map or scale of consciousness from 0 to 1,000. 550 unconditional love. That's what they found is the most beneficial level for most people for most of their challenges. And then if you say I'm traveling a lot or I'm not at home a lot or I'm currently on the run, you can give them your phone number and they don't use it to access your phone in any way. Again, the phone number serves as a unique identifier because only you, the only person in the world, has that particular phone number. So that gives the service the unique identifier as to where the service should be. And then it creates a field around the phone, 8 feet, I believe, again, of 550. And people can feel it. People talk about it. People write us emails all the time. Incredible service. I understand the skepticism. We did plenty of interviews with the founders. You can find them on theinspiredchannel.com. Go there, click on the FLFE button. You can find all our interviews. They'll explain it in depth. Go search the website. Go look at the science. Go look at the studies. I encourage you to do that. I always appreciate skepticism, but not blind criticism of something you haven't studied. The skepticism is good. Discernment. I'm the anti-tech guy. I'm the biggest anti-tech guy you could possibly imagine. And I did all the due diligence with, and we did with this company. We've become so close. So I can only say,
Somebody's asking, is it a frequency?
it's an energy. So we get into distinctions here. There's nothing being sent to you. There's nothing being inserted to you. There's a field, a high consciousness field that's being maintained, and they studied how to create these fields and how to put all the beneficial information into it. And I encourage you to read up on it and listen to the founders so they can explain it to you in their own words.
Plus, once a month they have a workshop where everybody can participate,
Yes.
ask questions, and the founders will answer all questions people have. It's totally free.
They do a webinar once a month where they do Q&A. Anyone can join for free. We're also going to do soon a Q&A with them together where we will invite you to come in. We really, as it's our intention to bring this service to as many people as possible. 90% of FLFE's work is done in service. 10% is the business side of things, which funds the 90% that they do in service. And they've grown to be a really decent sized company. I believe 55, 60 employees on staff. They do amazing work. They'll spend as much time on the phone with you as you need.
Somebody's saying you're a grifter. Oh Lord, please
Sure, Kyle. Move on. Move on.
conscious writer is saying the EMF mitigation is a huge help too. That's what we
Yes.
too.
So the EMF mitigation, somebody says the EMF mitigation. The thing is, I didn't even want to talk about it this long. I just get excited. The EMF mitigation has been one of the biggest helpers for us. Where we live around us, even though we're quite rural actually, but many people that for whatever reason have the means and want this service are supporting all the towers and all the 5 whatever and all that, and so we felt such a huge relief from the FLFE service in terms of EMF mitigation. Again, I'm going to leave it at that. Click the link, just try it. No subscription, no credit card needed. It's just a free gift of the founders. You will never be pressured. You'll never be anything. You can jump on a call with their people. They'll explain what's important. They'll real people, no bots. And the founders have said to their staff, because the staff asked, how much time can we spend with a customer or potential customer on the phone? They said, let God guide you. You will know what is needed. Sometimes it's 3 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. You are the judge, and let God guide you. I thought that's amazing. So go try it out and just experience it for yourself.
And it clears the lane. That's
Oh my goodness, so many things. Okay, last but not least, the negative energy that's stored when you walk into certain houses or bad stuff is happening in your home, a lot of fights, a lot of whatever. The minute that the service comes onto your property, it begins clearing all those old energies. Clearing. There's other ways you can clear that, of course. We've done it in the past with other methods, but it is wonderful. All right, friends. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a voice for harmony, balance, and peace in the world. All of this information about everything only matters if we can make it actionable. If we can show and lead by example that, yes, we can do things differently than it was done in the past, and that we can overcome this insanity for killing and warfare, that we can truly do it. And we need to show how. There's not much examples out there that we can model ourselves after. It has to be us. I have faith in you, my friends. Much love, many blessings. We'll be back with you again very, very soon.